In this video, we're going to speak with Chris Fazio. Chris has been a member since 2018, and he seems pretty active in the woodshop. He started out just making cutting boards, but since then, he's really upped his game. He's one of our success stories at Dallas Makerspace. But recently, after Chris earnestly voiced his concern about when Dallas Makerspace would reopen after COVID-19, he was met with a rather hostile public response from Dallas Makerspace Board of Director and Treasurer, Brad Sims. I don't care much at all about the concerns of the little guys who commit petty theft, bring nothing to the organization but problems, and generally approach DMS as entitled children. Those folks can be safely ignored. And this is just one example of how Dallas Makerspace members of all types are treated by the leadership, with contempt, mistrust, and slanderous remarks. Hey, it's Mark Havens. In 2010, I started Dallas Makerspace with a group of virtual strangers here in Dallas, Texas. And starting with just a $1,000 donation, we founded what is now the largest all-volunteer-run community makerspace in the world. But now, it's been taken over by fraudsters that had me banned just 2 days before I could win a board election. But nonetheless, I'll still be here to help other makerspaces and community leaders around the world navigate through the good times and the bad in their organization. If your town doesn't have a makerspace yet, I'm also here to give you advice on what you can do to build a makerspace from the ground up. If you're new here, make sure to click that subscribe button. And remember, all the links to everything in this video can be found in the description below. Under the leadership of Brad Sims, many Dallas Makerspace members are left to feel like their opinion not only does not matter to the leaders who supposedly serve the membership, but they are to be publicly slandered, shamed, ridiculed, even formally disciplined for voicing any opinion that is at all contrary to the agendas of the leadership.
For the most part, as long as we balance our spending and keep an eye on things, we can, prosper with a lot fewer members than we've had in the past. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing.
For those who are unaware, decisions made by Brad Sims over the last year have been brought into question due to reported ethics concerns as an incumbent during the election campaign for board of directors. Brad Sims played an integral part while displaying malfeasance and a conflict of interest while voting to have me banned from the organization for life just 2 days before the end of my winning campaign for board of directors at Dallas Makerspace.
Bans that have been done have been justified. They've been necessary in order to maintain the integrity of the organization. Now, is there anybody that I would bring back that's been permanently expelled? Not in the last year, I can tell you that for sure. Those were all people who were given a very fair, very thorough process. They had the opportunity to make their case. It was decided dispassionately. These were people who broke the rules in a way that required their removal from the organization.
Some of the things me and Chris will be talking about will be Chris's unfortunate experiences with Dallas Makerspace leadership while he was still a new member, his reasons for self-censorship and fear of speaking out against bad policy, his concerns that he might be made a target by Dallas Makerspace leadership, and his genuine concern that Dallas Makerspace leadership has taken their financial responsibility to the point that they are now frugally irresponsible and making Dallas Makerspace look like a second-rate amateur show. Hey guys, this is Mark Havens, and with me I have Chris Fazio. Hey Chris, how you doing today?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing awesome, as always. Now, we haven't met in person, have we?
I don't believe so, no.
No? Well,
I'm kind of on the night shift, essentially.
Yeah, you're on the night shift?
Yeah.
I'm all over the place over there. Of course, I'm not there at the moment. That might change from year to year. I've been banned before by a similar, by the leadership community that's currently in power.
Yeah.
So I guess we sort of go back and forth. They ban us, we ban them. That's kind of how it goes, I guess. But I guess you've noticed, or you've been following some of the drama.
In regards to what? So like recently, yeah. So the second I heard the whole like blue tape crew thing, I just like zoned out. Like my eyes glossed over, and I was just like zoned out. So I don't know the too many details, but as far as drama is like the whole Chris incident and yada yada yada, I know some of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not looking for any like insider type of
Mhm.
info. I'm looking for, like the average Joe,
Mhm.
perception wise, like what's going on. What do you see? Um, well, I guess first let's go ahead and talk about like some of the basics, foundation, like the Dallas Makerspace. Like when you first became a member of Dallas Makerspace, what were you expecting? Like when did you become a member originally?
Um, I want to say 2 years ago in May,
Okay.
something like that.
Uh,
But I became a member, and then the first time I actually went there was like 2 months later.
oh, I see.
Um, for some dumb reason, I don't
You don't remember
know.
why you? I mean, most people when they sign up, they're like, you know, uh, they're die hard. They're trying to work it as much as they can and get as much as they can. But
I believe it was a class, like a schedule issue with like work and woodshop class, and I kind of just put it off. But so one thing that did kind of blow me away when I first joined is like I never expected them to provide like the amount of stuff that they provided as far as like they pretty much facilitate every. I've always said as long as you're not going to hurt yourself or with the tools, you can do whatever the hell you want. It just surprised me, that no one's going to come up and question like, hey, what are you working on? As long as you're not doing anything dangerous, it's like you can work on whatever you creatively feel like you can.
well, that has always been my experience. But I'm a bit of a special case. People, certain people pick on me from time to time. So, um, but I think in general that's probably true. As long as especially if it's got a really really awesome cool factor that's not dangerous. Although
Yeah.
I would think that like a jet engine build would be dangerous and loud, and we've done that in the past.
I heard we even did a rail gun, like like a mini rail gun.
I don't remember the railgun, but it doesn't surprise me. I've thought about building
Yeah.
a railgun myself. Um, it's just a matter of I don't know. It's been done. Um, doing something new is more my speed.
Yeah.
But what were you expecting at Dallas Makerspace when you joined though? Like when you went through the tour and well, tell me like what were you thinking when you went through the tour for the first time?
So, being completely unfamiliar, like so when I joined Makerspace, I was like afraid to use a table saw, like
Mm,
had never used anything like that. So it's like I mean, it was literally just like bewilderment as far as like walking through and seeing all these tools and not really knowing what I'm looking at,
mm.
but just knowing you're looking at something impressive as far as like the infrastructure.
What were you expecting when you did join? Like what I guess what I'm asking is when you joined, did your expectations match what reality was with the makerspace, or
No, but in a good sense. So I expected kind of like a real authoritarian, like kind of like a woodshop and school type atmosphere where
mm,
you always got someone looking over you, and it's very you kind of have to follow the instructor's guidelines. So when I joined, it was basically just kind of like a as long as you're safe and you're not going to damage any tools, it's a free for all. Yeah, that was definitely something that was against my expectations, but it was in a good way.
so how did you use that freedom when you figured that out?
I mean, a kid in a candy store kind of, describes it.
Yeah.
Just absolutely like let loose.
So what was your first project?
So I started making cutting boards. Like I remember bringing like duffel bags full of like, you know, boards that I cut to length and like putting them on the joiner. And then I was like, I want to build some furniture, and then slowly progressed to like tables, and then
Now,
Yeah.
you're primarily a wood shop guy then, or do you have you venture out into the other stuff?
I pretty much do everything. Like if you watch the cameras for like one time, one session I'm there, I'm in the metal shop and in 3D fab, I'm in wood shop. Um, there's not an area I couldn't walk into in the makerspace and not comfortably use the tools from my experience. So it's like I have the ability and the knowledge to like go anywhere I want, but I tend to go to metal shop, wood shop, and then 3D fab.
So, what do you think you're getting for your $720 a year to be a member of Dallas Makerspace?
Really, it's the access to the tools because, like you mentioned, I had been banned, and it's like during that 6 months, you really realize what you don't have access to. So it's like, I mean, I got really good, hand cutting joints and stuff like that, but just really the access to the tools in the facility. That and the 24/7 thing is a big thing because it's like it really you can fit your schedule around it really easy.
That was something I think everybody was in agreement with when the space started. We had to have a 24-hour access facility, so
Yeah.
which makes it a bit of a challenge. But what what's your experience been like in regards to like the classes and the training and stuff over the last year or so?
That's been really good. So I think I'm only certified for like woodshop basics back when it was just a one part class, and then 3D printer.
Mhm.
So I haven't taken too many classes, but I have taken like one-on-one instruction from people who would normally take a class, and I mean that has been pretty good. So I admit my ignorance on the whole honorarium drama and all that stuff going on now. So it's like I don't know how classes have changed since I've last taken one, but I mean every one that I've signed up for has been.
Who do you remember who your instructor was for the woodshop classes?
Chris, I don't know his name, but I mean, and this is not an insult, but pear shaped would be like, boom, you know exactly what the Chris I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, the Chris.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah. So he taught me, and then he was actually really helpful. I mean, post class, like like there were probably like 15 incidences where I had a question. I walked up to him, and he helped me through it. So it was like he was pretty cool. And then for 3D Fab, it was who was it? It would have had to have been Max, yeah.
Max, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if is he still teaching classes right now? I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. I heard they made him step down, but I admit my ignorance on that.
Um, okay, so do you feel like, I mean, you said you had a lot of freedom there, and that's something that you really weren't expecting.
Mhm.
But do you feel like there's people you could talk to express concerns or issues? Do you think your opinion matters when you go there, or do you feel like you should just keep your head down?
So do I feel like an individual's opinion matters? Absolutely.
Okay.
Do I feel like my opinion matters? No.
Why don't you feel like your opinion matters?
Because there's been a couple people that I've had disagreements with or crossed paths and rubbed the wrong way that are pretty much just like, oh, whatever, I don't care what you say. So it's like, do I feel like each individual person that the makerspace opinion matters? Absolutely. But do I feel like my personal opinion matters? No, just because the people who would listen, I've kind of there's been an abrasive interaction. So I've revoked that ability myself, essentially.
Now, is it? Are you having trouble with leadership or just general members, or the culture, or I mean, can you be a little bit more specific? You don't have to name any names or anything. Just
Well, so one of the big things was like, what's his name? His thing on talk is Blatz.
oh yeah,
Blatz.
Marshall.
Yeah. Okay. So first interaction with him, he was like, you should really shut these. And so he made a comment about like, oh yeah, sometimes it's hard for people to understand the concept of a vacuum. And I'm like, okay, well if you're gonna basically call me a moron, then I was like, well no, I just don't care about doing it. So ever since then, he just kind of, was not my biggest fan. It's like if the first thing you're going to say is I don't understand how the principle of a vacuum works, then
Yeah,
it's like, of course I'm just going to be like, oh, I don't care.
that is a problem. We have a lot of trouble with first impressions sometimes. And there's kind of a culture of rudeness that I've noticed. Okay, so the reason you feel like you're not having to walk on eggshells anymore is because you're invisible. Nobody knows who you are.
Oh no. People know who I am and people notice me. It's just I've taken myself out of that circle of, like,
The drama circle.
well, the being informed circle, essentially. Like, information, good or bad, it's like I've just taken myself out of that.
Okay, well, that's actually a real common defense mechanism for a lot of people. The smarter people probably um, keep their heads down, don't plug into the gossip and the information circle or the leadership circle.
Yeah.
It's what I call the leadership community, I guess,
Yeah.
and that's where all the information gets traded at Dallas Makerspace.
It's like I've said I don't want to steer the ship. I don't even want to be on it. I just want to be tied to a raft that's going, that's being pulled behind it. So it's like wherever that ship goes, that's it. That's that's up to them. But I'm just in the back.
And if I think that's where a lot of people prefer to be. Um, the only problem with that is if you don't exercise your concerns or your voice or whatever, then the people in leadership can't make good, sound, level-headed, balanced decisions. They end up with all the people that are willing to talk to them and
Yeah.
or willing to be their friends essentially. They'll be
Yeah.
and I mean, do you have any concerns about that, or is it really like not really a concern?
Well, it is, but why I silence myself on talk is because, I mean, when there are stuff that I generally feel is better for the makerspace or I'm passionate about, I can come across very, very abrasive, and I'm very, very articulate about my, what I believe is wrong. So I'm able to not convince a lot of people, but I'm able to put into words what a lot of people aren't, because of just my ability to articulate what I see is wrong. So that tends to frustrate some people on the other side of that. So it's like I viewed it as when I'm speaking my opinion and doing that, it's like I'm essentially, putting my head on the chopping block of like, hey, if one thing goes wrong, boom, you're out of there, and I don't want to lose the makerspace over political things, so I'm just gonna be out of it completely.
So you feel that you're actually very persuasive,
Yes.
but in being persuasive, you end up sometimes making some enemies.
Yeah, so it's like the thing I've always said about politics is 100% of the time you will always hate the other side. Always. Like, it will always become my side versus your side, and I don't like, your side's opinion. And then it starts to become, very, very, separative and divisive and aggressive as far as just like, the mentality of it. So it's like, I just would rather be silent than.
I think what I'm hearing is that you value your membership at Dallas Makerspace more than you value your own voice at Dallas Makerspace.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So, does that mean that you feel like if you had a voice, you would be compromising your membership?
No, but so I'm not saying that they would. I feel that if I was proactive enough against, policies or people, in charge, then it would put my, target on my back. It would basically be like, one because everybody gets away with little things, you know, they don't clean up this or they don't do that, and it's okay, you know, they don't sweep up that, and, you know, that just kind of, you know, goes by. But when you start to make yourself one of those, you know, very pronounced, you know, people against the leadership, then those little tiny things start to become, okay, well, you didn't clean this, boom, warning, you didn't do this, warning, all right, you're out of here. So everything gets a lot more scrutinized when you become that, you know, that person in the spotlight, essentially. So I would much rather just, you know, be under the radar than, you know, be that person in the spotlight. Because just because of how, again, how articulate I am, and I'm not, when I feel something's wrong, and I, you know, want to speak out about it, I'm not just going to be like, oh, okay, you know, blah, blah. It's going to be like, no, this is why you're wrong. This is the logic behind it. And this is why, what I see to be better. So it's like, it becomes very, not hostile, but it becomes very heated very fast. So it's like.
Do you think there's any issue in your mind right now that you don't feel comfortable talking about, but would be passionate about talking about if there was no risk of politics or losing friends or having a target?
The only issue I see is, so there was this, you know, big movement of like financial responsibility, which is great, like, you know, the blue tape. So obviously blue tape is never going to look good on a budget. There's never going to be a budget in the world where they're like, oh, a bunch of blue tape, yeah, that looks good. So that's obviously an item to cross off. But it's gotten to the point where it's like, it's frugal to the point where there's no paper towels for sanitizing machines. Like, literally, I had to go find a paper towels. I had to walk from woodshop all the way to ceramics to find one roll of paper towels. So it's like, yeah, we should be financially responsible, but we shouldn't be frugal to the point where we're making ourselves look like an amateur, you know, small, you know, rinkety shop that doesn't even have paper towels. So if I invited you over to my house for dinner and you know, spilled some sauce on your hand and you had to walk through 2 bedrooms and into the bathroom and find one single towel, you'd kind of be like, oh man, Chris probably isn't doing that good financially. Same thing with that. It's like, I feel like we've made ourselves financially responsible to where we've kind of taken ourselves out of being one of the biggest, you know, makerspaces in the world, and now we kind of have an amateur show because we're supposed to be sanitizing machines, but we have 1 roll of paper towels and 2 jugs of sanitizer per 1,000 square feet.
So, I don't know, what I'm hearing is that this is kind of the Dallas Makerspace is coming off as second rate. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, well, in certain areas, just because, I mean, we've cut the budget so much that, like, brooms, I mean, there are some areas that where you're not going to find a broom in the world. You literally have to walk all the way to the back warehouse to find a single broom, or, you know, a single roll of paper towels. So it's like, I understand we don't want to, you know, be spending a bunch of money on ridiculous things like blue tape and all that stuff. Like, that makes sense. But facility operations, I mean, we're supposed to be sanitizing machines, and we have, like, if you go look in the commons area, there's like 12 bottles of empty sanitizer, and you try and go find a full one, and you're like, all right. So I think we've taken that financial responsibility to the point where it's being frugally irresponsible. But yeah, that was really my only thing. It's just kind of, we've taken, and people always want to say, oh, well, we've spent all this money on expansion, yada yada yada. Well, expansion was a pre-set aside amount of funds. So it's like, it shouldn't be like, oh, we're expanding, we can't afford paper towels now, we can't afford sanitizer, you know, we can't facility have the stuff it needs. Now, I'm not a blue tape crew. Obviously, blue tape should be gone. All that, you know, wood glue, all that stuff, you know, all the stuff you should buy yourself, you should buy yourself. But like brooms and shop vacs and, you know, sanitizer and paper towels, that's not something you should really cut out of the budget. Especially when I think in 2009 they filed your, what was it, the 990? I think it was like $800,000, you know, something like that.
Why were you given any information about any of this when you started noticing paper towels missing or blue tape or whatever? What was your impression as to what was going on at the time? Were you given official notice, or was it just kind of
At first, I thought it was the wood shop because that was generally where my attention was. It was just like, oh, so we basically had Mark, a chair, and then the guy after Mark, and then we had Paul. And Paul's a great guy, but he's really primarily a wood turner. He's never built anything with that, so it was kind of just like stuff dwindled just because it wasn't like, oh, I know what it takes to build this stuff or something like that. So I just figured, oh, it was a new chair, blah blah. It was just kind of stuff getting glossed over, essentially, no big deal. And then I started noticing it like, okay, well, there's no tape anymore. That's weird. All right, fine. There's no pencils anymore. All right, that's weird. And then it kind of all popped up on once the election time stuff. Then it was like, oh, okay, it's been we're cutting budgets essentially. But it was never like, oh, this is a problem. It was just like, all right, that's weird. I need to get my own tape. Or like, all right, that's weird. I need to go to the store and buy a pack of pencils.
But was there a basis for it? Did they at least say, well, we have to do this because X, Y, and Z?
They may have. But up until like a month ago, I had no clue what people were talking about when they said minutes. They're like, post your minutes. I was like, what the hell are they talking about, minutes? So it's like they may have said it at one point, but I was just so out of that circle that it's like it probably would have gone over my head.
You have any other issues that you think would probably not be well received on talk if you were to bring them up? You would. I know it's real common to get into an argument or a debate or whatever on talk, but on this platform, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. No, I mean, really, it would just be like the trying to express that financial responsibility can only go so far before it becomes frugally irresponsible. That would just not go over well on talk. The second you mention money on talk, it's like, oh, well, we've spent this much on expansion, and it's like, yeah, but that was a set aside fund that shouldn't, that doesn't take out of everyday operations. And then it's like this, 40 posts later, you're just like, all right, I give up.
So where do you think the line should be? I mean, if you think we're not spending enough on, paper towels, for example, or sanitizer, where do you think
Stuff to facilitate personal projects like wood glue, blue tape, pencils, stuff like that should not be provided. Stuff to facilitate the facilities like brooms and shop vacs and paper towels and sanitizer, that should all be provided. That should be provided in abundance. That should not be something that is stingy with we're using too much of this, too much of that, because that's operations.
Well, how about things like pencils?
No. So I mean, that's bring your own. Like literally, there's been times when I couldn't find a pencil. I drove across the street to the 7-Eleven, and there's like a pack of them for like $2 there, 3 in the morning. So it's like pencils and stuff like that for personal projects. Solo cups. I mean, I don't really know about solo cups. Maybe like put a stack in there every once in a while, but like stuff to facilitate personal projects, that should all be cut out. But stuff to facilitate the operations of Makerspace, that's not where you should cut the budget from, because then you make yourself look like a lower class organization than you actually are.
Have you used the creative arts area at all?
Some.
I noticed what they do, and this is, I guess it got kind of popular, or they set a precedent for it maybe. But they sell items that like the buttons are for sale, and and it's really kind of the honor system. But
Yeah.
they have materials that you can use in order to create your project, so you don't have to go on Amazon or whatever to buy the materials that you need, common materials that you need, especially if there are tools related to those items.
Yeah. It's like I would 100% support that, because one, I can't pick up a sheet of plywood in my car, so it would be great to have sheets of plywood up there and stuff like that, just small stuff. But it's like that, and we can monetize that. Like, I mean, obviously, if we buy it at a price, we can obviously put a small markup on it. So, for hassle of getting it to the makerspace and facilitating it and providing it. So it's like that would be a way to basically go in the green off a simple gesture of, hey, here's some stuff you can have.
I mean, I don't think I don't know if that would be sustainable with volunteers, but if you hired a service or a person to get plywood and stock plywood, maybe.
Well, no, just like different types of wood or anything. Say we a volunteer gets it, then Makerspace says it cost us $20. here you can have it for 25. Easy.
I mean, I don't know if we had the space for that before, but with the expansion and all, we might actually have space to have a small, lumber yard.
No, yeah, no, that was just a specific example, but like even like pins and stuff like that, or like screws or really anything like that, that would be nice to have. But you also run into the factor of keeping track of it, and that's where the issue is with a lot of stuff. It's just a lot of stuff would get swept under the wayside.
Well,
and it would just.
Creative Arts actually has a system, and I believe maybe even the laser committee uses a similar system, I think, to keep track of all that stuff. I mean, it wouldn't be perfect, and there would probably be theft-related issues, which I'm sure everybody gets up in arms when things go missing for sure.
But with the wood shop, it's scaled up by 10 because it's by far one, I believe, the biggest committee or used committee of the Makerspace. So it's creative arts times 20 essentially.
Yeah.
As far as foot traffic and stuff like that, so it just makes it a lot harder to keep track of stuff.
So, other than I don't know, I'm trying to figure out how to solve some of the problems that we're having, like an alternative way that would make like both parties happy, because anybody that would suggest that, oh well, you got to bring your own paper towels, okay, anybody that would say that, their argument is that well, somebody has to stock it, volunteers have to stock it, it's a pain in the butt to keep track of all of this stuff. If we're delegating out the responsibility of getting your own paper towels to the members.
But my argument to that would be, up until 3 months ago, it worked perfectly fine. There was a constant supply of paper towels. We may have ran out at one point, but we got more. So it's like there was a period of time where it was facilitated and doable.
Well, there was somebody actually buying the paper towels and delivering it, right? And if that is no longer the case, if the volunteerism has dried up to the point where we no longer have people willing to go and buy paper towels, for example.
Well, I mean, and I bring up Uline just because I've worked with them in the past. It's like, I mean, I've coordinated with them. I mean, you can pretty much get them to like drop it off at your doorstep essentially. So I mean, I don't know if we have a wholesale license on file with Uline or something like that, or if Uline's not the cheapest or whatever. But I mean,
yeah, I don't know if we're ordering it online or not, but still somebody has to facilitate the order.
Yeah.
So the management aspect of operations isn't zero. It requires effort. It isn't zero effort.
No, and I understand that. And just my thing with that has always been, when you run for committee chair, you can't just be like, oh well, there's work involved in this. Oh, who would have thought that?
You mentioned Pearce doesn't trust you with responsibility anymore because of burnt bridge.
I doesn't say doesn't. I say wouldn't.
Wouldn't. Okay. So he probably, now is that just like something that you infer that he wouldn't do? Like, you don't know for sure.
Oh well, yeah, absolutely. That literally that is just 100%. Just, I mean, like it's pulling it out of the air.
It's a gut feeling, though. You don't know.
Yeah.
Is that because of the energy that you get from him, like the feeling that you get when you see him or something, or?
That's because my self-awareness of the interactions of I understand how I came across and how I was perceived. So it's like,
well, Pearce is one of the people that regularly talks about how difficult it is to get volunteers. And
oh no, absolutely. I mean, it is extremely difficult.
I personally don't have that problem myself, But I imagine if your feelings about him not wanting to let you volunteer, if that is more common with other people too, would
Mhm.
maybe that would be an explanation. Why do you think you feel that way?
I feel that, like I said, I get passionate about the things. So it's like I feel that's an individual case that it's not something that's prevalent or on Pierce's side. That's all on me.
I I mean I don't know. I have a maybe a different perspective on that, I guess. I don't know Pierce that well anymore. I might not have ever really gotten to know Pierce at all, but
Yeah, other than brief conversations on topics, like I literally have no clue. I vaguely know what he looks like.
I have talked to a number of people, mainly people concerned with things related to logistics, and the stories are similar. I mean, I wouldn't say that they're afraid to, or they don't think that they just they don't like Pierce, or they think he's abrasive somehow, and avoid him.
You kind of have to in that. It's like, I mean, because yeah, I get that in positions like that you can't just be, because if you're trying to please everybody, you're just gonna go insane. So it's like you kind of have to take that hardball attitude of just like, this is how it's gonna be, yada yada yada. But in my personal opinion, I believe there should be logistics and there should be operations. But that's another topic.
Well, how would you go about being the hard ass that gets things done, and sometimes has to make a decision that pisses people off? And honestly, I've been in that role before, and it's not a lot of fun, and I still incur fallout from when I served in that role. Uh,
Absolutely, 100%. What Pierce is doing is the right way to do it. I mean, he does a great job. I've never been, a disponent of his or anything like that. But I mean, he's doing a great job and stuff like that. So it's like, I mean, he fits that role perfectly. He really does.
but how would somebody like Pierce be able to encourage volunteerism if he's being abrasive?
Well, no, I mean, the amount of volunteers that he stirs up already.
Mhm.
I mean, it may not be enough, but there's never going to be enough volunteers. But it is, that's just the nature of volunteerism. But I mean, he does a damn good job of it. There's no position or nobody in a position at Makerspace that I'm like, oh man, they were doing a bad job. I could do it so much better. But there are criticisms I have to improve the Makerspace. There's not a single person that I think is unfit for the role that they're in. But there are things that I believe could better the Makerspace. So if I'm against a policy, I'm not against a person, essentially.
Well, nobody wants to be against a person. I mean, that makes things personal. And that's sort of been my perspective too, for the most part. Um, I remember when I started when I started running, I focused on policy and on issues, and got attacked for that because people took it personally. It's real easy for somebody who puts their soul into a policy that they really believe in, and then have it undermined or attacked, and they'll oftentimes take it personally. Now, a lot of people can't separate the personal stuff from the business stuff, I guess.
Oh, but it's like I've been that way. Like I mean, me and Jim. So I don't know why I thought his name was Andrew, but I thought his name was Andrew for like I mean, the first 6 or 7 months I knew him. But yeah, me and Jim Hartnett, I believe is his last name.
Hmm.
We got into it, but it's like I mean, literally at the end, I was like, I you know, nothing but respect for you. So it's like I just because I disagree with the policy doesn't mean I don't respect you as a person. It doesn't mean I'm gonna be upset at you.
I wish everybody had the same feelings
Believe
about
me, I
that.
do too. Yeah.
We would have a lot fewer problems if everybody stopped taking things so personally.
But I swear I heard somebody call him Andrew. I swear.
Well, I mean, I know of several Andrews, so there's
Yeah. And the funny thing was, it was brought up in like a group conversation. It was like, oh yeah, Andrew told me this, and they're like, oh, I've never heard of Andrew. And I was like, well, he, chair of metal shop. He drives a white truck. And Jim's just like, that's me. My name's Jim. Thanks.
Oh yeah. Well, they get
Yeah, so.
people get stuff mixed up all the time.
Yeah.
And I just talking to you, I think you've had 3 names wrong already. So, and honestly, I don't know a lot of the names either, especially relatively new people that have been around only a few years. I know a lot of the people that have been around forever, 10 years. But even people like Ken Patel, I think, Patel. I don't know him very well.
So I know the name. I don't know the face. See, and that's the problem. Is I hear a lot of the names, but like Ian, the new woodshop chair, he could walk right by me, and I have no clue who he is.
Yeah,
I've only heard his name.
We did go through a phase. Right, I wouldn't call it a phase. Somebody took the initiative to take a lot of pictures and put them up. I guess you saw the side of the hall that has all of the photographs, all of the Polaroid pictures.
We'll see. I thought it'd be a good thing, like when a new chair is introduced, have like a thread of like, hey, this is me, this is who I am, type introduction of like, this is who I am as a person. This is what I've done in this, sector of the hobby or whatever.
And we do have to take some initiative. I guess new people have to take initiative to do that because we don't have a group that really makes that takes that initiative to pull people in.
If you were elected as a new head of a committee, you would then kind of like your statement of intent. You would have to post a thing of like, hey, introduction of I'm Chris. This is yada yada yada. I'm the new chair, etc. etc.
Oh, I see. So you're talking about chairs, introduction of chairs.
Yeah.
So yeah, the a lot of times meetings happen. I guess they're probably all on mostly online. I don't know if I for obviously I haven't been going since March, since COVID, and of course I can't go at all now other than participate with the community online. But it's not uncommon for there to be a leadership community formed within the committee itself, and you have to be plugged in and in the know, and it's I guess not uncommon for the chairs to not really take a lot of initiative in getting to know people and making them feel comfortable, or maybe that's just not a priority. I mean, I'm hearing from you that it's something that you think should be, but in order for that to be, people actually have to know what to do. Like people in leadership positions have to know what to do, or at least there has to be some sort of standard policy that people follow.
Well, so I wouldn't say that's like a general policy, but just me, someone who comes in at like 9 o'clock at night and is there to like 2, 3, 4 in the morning. It's hard to notice the social group, but that's just a specific case to me. If I showed up at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, it's like there would be no issue.
I like talking and I like socializing. I like interacting with makers and stuff, and I really should start talking about some of the projects, especially the cool projects that people might be working on, especially if they're innovative and stuff. I was talking to an engineer who was playing with some VR augmentation. He had a not an arcade game, a virtual pinball game, and he set up buttons and things like that to hit, and you could put on your headset and interact with the pinball machine, just like if it was real, with tracking and everything like that, and you could feel it and touch it. And
that's pretty cool.
I thought that was pretty slick, and probably one of the easier things to set up like that. So
yeah,
I don't know, seeing those kinds of cool, awesome things at the forefront. People that create things, not just make things, but create new things.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more of that, I think. Anything like that interest you by chance?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm trying to trying to build a bank vault essentially.
Trying to build
like yeah, so like the bank vault doors. It's got like the pins and the gears and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm trying to build one of those on Fusion.
Oh, really?
I keep, I keep like turning it out and on the 3D printer to try and get all the details right where I have it machined.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you're trying to build a bank vault from scratch, machine a bank vault.
Yeah.
One thing I was interested in doing myself was making a stirling engine, a large stirling engine, one that could actually potentially be hooked up to produce electricity, and
okay.
And then use like a solar concentrator or something like that as a heat source. You're familiar with stirling engines?
I am. I believe it's you got the heat source, and then over there, and it's like I believe it doesn't. The same principle as like that little thing in the glass tube that spins when light hits it, type thing.
But anyway, Chris, it's been good talking to you. I think we got to wrap it up because people complain when this gets too long. So
no worries.
But I appreciate the conversation. Appreciate the candor, and
no problem.
Hope you don't get too much flack for talking to me or talking about things that might upset people.
Well, if I do, I probably won't notice.
Well, I hope we can do this again, and and I guess I'll catch you later.
All right, take care.
You take care. Bye. All right. So if you hear anything in the background, it's my family having dinner or something like that. So we'll get that. It's pretty much the new norm, right? Edit. I gotta move around my camera again. I have you on a different camera right now. There we go. Maybe that'll work a little bit better. We got family going on behind the green screen right now. So let's see here. It got me distracted a little bit, and then I have a problem with apparently I'm by a window and I don't have my curtains up right now because I was doing some wiring and stuff, and I got sun hitting my camera, so I'm gonna do some little adjustments here. And I probably won't edit this out either, so I don't like editing these videos. But all right, go ahead. I'm sorry. From Dallas Makerspace Board of Director and Treasurer Brad Sims, stating, "You seem to be mistaken. You seem to mistake me for someone who cares what you think, Chris." Stating, "You seem to mistake me for someone who cares, Chris." Stating, "You seem to mistake me for someone who cares, Chris." But they are to be publicly slandered, shamed, ridiculed, and even formally disciplined for voicing any opinion that is at all contrary. Any opinion that is at